Hey everybody, Jim here. On kind of a raw, rainy day in Massachusetts, I came back from Nevada. It's early, now mid-March now, I guess. And it's been quite a winter back here in the east. No snow in the woods, as you can see. And I'm gonna burn brush today. Well, it's a hot one, this whole fire. This brush pile's been being saved up for several years, and typically I'm not here in the wintertime, so I haven't had an opportunity to burn it. Here in this town you can only burn during the winter months, and so last year I didn't get back here in time to do any burning, so I've got quite a few piles I'm going to take care of. So this is Jim's Van and Life channel, and if you're new, welcome in. It's not all about van life, because although I do travel in my van and do stuff, that's mostly done in the fall and in the winter time. But back east, when the weather's nice, I'm out here working on my property. Am I lucking out or what? Here it is, almost the middle of March. In New England, there's no snow. No snow in the woods. Pretty warm day, so pretty cool. I'll be showing you some more of the properties here in a little bit. You can see it's a wet, damp day here, and we're going to get this pile behind me going. I needed a source of water just to be safe, although I don't think the fire's going to go anywhere. But I'll show you how I set up to have some water here in case I had to, put the fire out or control it. It runs through a hose that I've put into the stream, and basically I'm just gravity feeding it down to these buckets. Alright, well, now that we get that pile going here, why don't I give you a little bit of an update on what's going on with this piece of property. So this is a 20-acre parcel. It's got significant road frontage, which means that it can be subdividable into building lots. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that right now. Right now it's just basically a work in progress, mostly excavating and trying to determine how best to handle things like drainage, where foundations would go in, but most importantly, septic system. The way this property would have to be worked is you would need to have a septic system that could be built into this hillside and this fill, and I'll show you why, because you can see right here that it's very wet. So here we are in the spring of the year. If you were to do some deep hole tests, perk tests to put in a septic system, there's just no way that it's going to pass because the groundwater is way too high, which means the system would have to go on top of a mountain of fill out in here, or you could terrace this hillside back and move a lot of fill forward and make a nice place for septic system right next to a house that you could probably place over here in this corner. You can see how it's dished out over here. And by dished out, I mean you can see that the terrain right here is not as steep as elsewhere. So here's a decent place for carving into the hillside to put in a basement. One thing you'll see here is some equipment. Now I bought this equipment. It's old, but it's still serviceable. And for what I need it to do, it'll more than make back the money that I put into it. So for example, this large Hitachi excavator was $20,000. The dozer was $9,500, and probably I overpaid, but I kind of bought this as a package deal, so I probably overpaid for this loader. The tires are pretty much used up. The bucket has some holes in it. But these three pieces of equipment allow me to do quite a bit of work to the property, way less than it would cost to have somebody come in to do it, and I get to do this at my own pace when I have time. And for those of you that have watched my channel, you know I'm not here full time. All right, well, while we get the fire going here, give you a little bit more of a viewpoint on some of the challenges here on this piece of land. And as you can see, I have used the dozer and the excavator to cut into the hillside and to make a road in here. So basically I go from the flats down here all the way out and around and back up the other side. I come in here, and here's where I think the location for one house lot could be. Now notice I showed you from below that it's cupped out a little bit here. It's not as steep. So cutting these trees out, coming in with the machine and opening this up, carving it down a little bit, what would end up being a pretty small backyard, and the house would have to be built up on pretty much a raised foundation, where the front of the foundation for the home would actually open up to like garage doors, and you'd be driving in underneath the living quarters, put a deck overhang porch coming out to kind of disguise the fact that it's kind of built up on up above ground. And I think you could make a neat little house in here, probably a well location over here, septic location in this hillside. Now, because of the steepness of the hillside, there's concern about the breakout of your leach water, breaking out the side of your leach field, or in this case it would probably be long trenches that go down the side here. But you can't have this same steep banking. It's got to be only a certain slope so that you know any leach water is not going to be leaching out. Now if you look at the material here, when I first was up in here, I was concerned that it was going to be nothing but these bones. In other words, a whole hillside of nothing but big bones that had been left here by the glacier. And that's exactly what happened here. All these bones were just basically dragged here with the glacier, and then when everything melted and receded, it just ended up on this hillside. What I was concerned was that the whole hillside was nothing but rock. But as you can see, as I get down into the surface area here, that it's actually pretty gravelly. There are some periods where you break into this this ledge, this broken up ledge work. But you can tell by the colors, the lighter brown colors, that in this hillside is a lot of gravel. This will leach very well in terms of septic system. So all I have to really deal with here is going to be this steep slope. Now some would say, why not just build down on the flat and do a build-up septic system on the flat part down here. But given where the groundwater is, where I showed you before, I mean, you're talking about a lot of fill, and it would probably look like a mountain of fill. And you've seen these septic systems that are basically pump-up systems. You have the house, and then next to the house is this big old mound. It doesn't look very good. So anyway, that's the thought here for one house lot. Now there's enough land here for several house lots, and this is just one location I've been thinking about, that if I was going to build something, the first one I'd do is right here. Pile's not burning great. It's burning, but the problem is it's such a big pile and it's so dense that I'm getting a hard time getting the whole thing to burn. So take a look. You can see it's burning into the stack. I set the fire over here on the upwind side so that when the wind blew, it would help to accelerate. But this brush pile isn't going to get done by the time that the town mandates they be out in the afternoon. So I'm going to take the excavator and claw this brush pile over all these hot coals here and get it going. Well, we're into the afternoon now. Pile's going down. And I lucked out and the sun came out. It's actually turned out to be a pretty nice day. Think about it, it's March 15th, northern Massachusetts. This town borders New Hampshire. March 15th, weather in the 50s. This is pretty incredible. Last year I didn't come back to the eastern headquarters until the second week of May. I stayed out in Nevada. But if the weather's going to be like this, I got to think about coming out here a little bit sooner, because things are going to dry up here and it's going to be nice. It's going to be ready to get stuff done. The other good reason to come back earlier is that last year, when I went to start using the equipment, which wasn't until probably around, I don't know, mid-end of May, the bees had gotten into it. there was multiple nests in all the equipment, mostly yellow jackets. There was some bald-faced wasps that got up into the bucket that I have over the exhaust pipe for the dozer to keep water from getting down into the engine. So I went to take the bucket off to start the machine, and a bunch of bees came out of there. I didn't get stung, and then I noticed there were yellow jackets flying inside the side panel of the machine, and there was a paper nest in there about the size of a softball. And then the loader had a couple nests in it too. And so need to get back here and keep the machines moving so the bees decide not to nest in it. I've got some maintenance to do on the excavator machine. One of the track tensioners is shot. It's not holding grease, so I can't hold tension on that left side track. And then there's a slight hydraulic leak on the center joint, one of the pipes. I think it's just a rubber seal, O-ring, so that's got to get fixed. I'm going to change the oil in the excavator as well. And those excavators hold quite a bit of oil. It's a 6-cylinder diesel, Isuzu, and runs great. The beauty of having your own equipment is when you own land is to get stuff done over time, for sure. I've got a lot to do with this property. If I do decide to build a little house in this corner right over here, I'll probably have to do quite a bit of excavating, quite a bit of prep to work with an engineer and get a septic design and permit application all ready to go. I've got a lot more trees down this end I want to cut and bring in some more fill and excavating, so I think probably work on site work, septic design and plan, probably also decide on what kind of house, what kind of foundation I'm going to put in here, and that'll all happen throughout this year in 24, and see if I can't be ready to build in the spring of 25. So that'll be fun, and we'll get that thing chronicled on YouTube as well. Well, it's been a good 2 weeks here in the Northeast getting stuff done around my properties in what was a beautiful break in the weather. But as you can see, it's still winter in New England, and we got about 3 to 4 inches of snow came in here, followed by freezing rain, and it iced everything up. But today it's a melty day, so it's not going to last long. I did come in here just a couple days ago and I started pulling stumps and rocks out of this hillside here. Yeah, this is going to be a challenging piece of terrain, a challenging piece of property to develop. Anytime you have steep hillside like this, you're going to have water issues. And as you can see, the melt-off that will happen here as it warms up over the next few days is going to dump a lot of water, a lot of melt water down there into the flats. Matter of fact, you can see water forming there now. So that just, and you can see water further out too, down by the street where it drains into the culvert. So you can see that putting a foundation of a house in there, down there, is not going to be, that's not feasible. So that means if you're going to put a basement in, and you want it to be a dry basement, then you're going to have to build it into the hillside, and you're going to have drainage around it to take any water that's coming out of the hillside away from the building's foundation. So this is going to be a little challenging here. I'll probably have to get an engineer in here, because there's probably some rules about you know, just understanding the stability of the hillside. Now this hillside's never going to collapse. It's nothing but glacial rock. But I'm sure that the municipality's building inspector may require some kind of soil testing or some kind of engineering plan relative to the slope, the grade, and you know, building the house into it. And I can tell you right now that out west, especially when I was living in Washington State, there was all kinds of houses built into hillsides out there. So it can be done. I can imagine going through the bureaucracy of building in here is going to be a little bit frustrating. Well, but my brother's coming to pick me up, take me to the train station. I'm heading back to Logan and flying back to Las Vegas tonight.